While we're waiting here for a minute, what I would love for you to do, Chris, if you would mind just introducing yourself to everybody. I know everybody knows you, but I would love for them to hear, obviously, how long you've been in the business, how long you've been at Supreme, which I think those two go hand in hand, and also just some numbers looking back, if you don't mind telling everybody, and also where you're located.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Sarah, for the opportunity to be a part of this call. I'm super honored and thankful to be at Supreme. I think we are the best of the best for sure. We are a hidden secret, like you had mentioned at President's Club this year. But for those that don't know, my name is Chris Ruiz. I'm out of the Simply Supreme team here in California. Been with Supreme since 2018 January, and I've been originating since 2017 April. So I've only been at two companies. So you asked about that. So yeah, Supreme Lending, that's where I've been since then. Great company, of course, as you guys all know. Some numbers, I'm just looking at my compensate right now, or my, compensate right now. So just to give some perspective, I guess I'll go back the last 2 years. So 2024, we finished off at $57 million for the year and 108 units. The prior year was $41 million and 76 units. The prior year was $52 million, 91 units. And then prior to that was the COVID year. So don't really even think about those that much. So
The fake years, as Scott Everett calls them. They were kind of, I know when people are like, my best year was, I'm like, no, I get that. I get
yeah,
that. Kind of the remarkable thing too, Chris. And as I'm launching, yes, everybody, this will be recorded and you can re-listen to it because I know Chris is going to drop some golden nuggets and tips that I think will really, really help everybody. But we are starting out something I call Supremely You. And it's supremely for you to help you. My mission in the business side of things and also in life overall is to make sure that everything we do is making an impact and it can help you grow your business. And I know for myself, when I have been on these calls over, the very, very long years that I've been in the business, every once in a while I get that one thing that I take away and I go, you know what? I'm going to start this today. I'm going to implement this today. And it made a massive difference. It could be $1 million idea and that can happen. And so what I also want to point out about Chris too, Chris, again, 7 going into 8 years. 8 years is not a long time to be in the business. And if you guys have been watching the stats, first off, congratulations to all of you that are still in the business. If you made it through the last 3 years, you are the best of the best. And newer people, and I shared this with Chris, newer people in the business after COVID, the majority of them it was only like, I think 3% that ended up staying. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I just think that's a crazy stat. So the fact, Chris, that you are doing what you're doing tells me, you know what, you got the goods. And so let's jump into the goods. When you look back, and obviously you had the startup of 2017, 2018, would you mind sharing? And I always say this, success leaves clues. Success will leave us clues. And so maybe if you wouldn't mind just jumping in, starting to share what started happening for you when your business really started to kick in. And I'll point out things to everybody as Chris is going along, because again, it'll be a nugget. I'll go, wait a minute, there's a nugget right there.
sure. Happy to. So right out of the gate when I got started originating, I've been super thankful and grateful to have a really good coach and mentor, Scott Eden, my branch manager, who's still coaching me to this day. But out the gate, he had taught me to get involved in coaching. So we were part of a coaching program, him and I. And right out the gate, he had asked me to start going after, referral partners, and not just realtors, but CPAs, financial planners, insurance agents, and to diversify the referral sources of a business for me. But I
Hang
just focused.
on, two things to point out: coaching, get coached, and it could be this call. It can actually be this call, and then figure out an accountability partner, because you had him as your accountability buddy. And then also you diversified, keep going, because most loan officers have not exactly figured that out. Besides realtors, would you give them all the diversification for your referral partners?
Yeah, CPAs, financial planners, divorce attorneys, insurance agents, And then most importantly, your database, which I had none of. He has a massive database, and so my aspiration was to build up a database as big as his. So that was the focus was for me for that first 12, 14 months was going after realtors, walking into realtor offices, doing 2 to 3 open houses a weekend, and trying to just I was just very scrappy, just looking to acquire as much opportunity as possible to get in front of people.
How many calls a week were you making on average when you made that decision to diversify and to start building up your database?
At least 100 calls a week. That would be the average between cold
Okay.
calls and between active business.
Okay. Okay. And did you have, again, did you have specific days you did it? So it was a very consistent habit that you were setting up for yourself?
Yes. So there's with the coaching program that we were part of, there's theme days. And so every day
Yeah.
had specific people that we were targeting. For example, Monday would be top 40 realtors or the 40 realtors that I was going after at that point because I didn't have 40 relationships. So it would be 40 people that I was attracting or going after and wanting to initiate a relationship. Tuesday would be current pipeline clients and wowing them with our milestone updates and then asking them for referrals. Wednesday would be pre-approved clients and then their agents as well, just to let them know, hey, just letting you know, I spoke to Sarah and gave her an update on the market, what's going on with the rates. I hear you guys are looking this weekend. Thanks so much for trusting me with Sarah as a referral. Who else can I help?
So you went out with information to touch those people. How did you get in front of like insurance agents and divorce attorneys and financial planners and CPAs? Because that's, obviously realtors, you can throw an event, you can pull them into the event, you can do training, different things. But what were you doing for those different pillars?
I really didn't get a lot of traction with those other pillars, maybe 1 or 2 here or there.
Okay.
But the majority of my business has come from realtors. I now have maybe 2 or 3 CPAs that are starting to feed me more business, which is nice to see,
Okay. Good.
especially during
Good.
this tax
Good.
season. But I would just go on Yelp and I would look up divorce attorneys and call them there. And I guess what I learned was if you do enough activity, you're going to find something that sticks and you'll start to get referrals.
You just don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
again, it goes back to it's a numbers game and getting the reps in every single day. And I would encourage everybody listening, going back to the theme days. What happens with theme days, and again, this is sort of this natural thing. I mean, I know, the company that you're speaking about with their theme days, but I will tell you this, if you just as a loan officer say, whatever it is, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to make this many sales calls face to face. I have to make this happen. Then in addition, how many am I going to make on the phone? And you do it religiously those 3 days a week or whatever it is for yourself. And I would love, Chris, for you to speak to this because what happens in your brain is your brain starts because you're creating a pathway, you're creating a neuro-linguistic pathway of a good new habit. And then what happens is on that day, you have to do it, right? Because you're like, wait, it's Tuesday. I gotta go make my sales calls. I've got to get this done. And internally, again, there's this emotion that comes up if you don't do it. Like when you didn't do it, what happened for you?
Well, my paycheck reflected that. So
Right, right.
yeah,
But
so
you
if I didn't
probably
do my
also tried to make it up like the next day if you didn't do it that day for your theme day.
Yeah, I just found that when I was inconsistent with calling on a daily basis, Sarah, then it became hard at point, and I would kind of see my volume kind of up, and it was yo-yoing like a roller coaster for some time until I got consistent with those days and just got really comfortable on the phone and like second nature. So I got used to rejection. I got used to picking up the phone and making those calls. And then after a while, it just started to flow because I was just doing it week after week. And I would say after 3 or 4 months of consistent effort of tracking my calls and tracking my activity the deal started to show up.
Well, also to your point, the more you get rejected, the easier it gets, don't you think?
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, you're just kind of like, okay, I'm whatever, I'm 2 for 10, and I know, it's like a baseball player. You're a superstar if you're batting 300. So you just know I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna miss it, and I'm gonna strike out. It's just gonna be part of it. And so also, I would also say to everybody, sometimes it's good to know your stats. And if you track it, I don't know if you did that, Chris, but I do track my own from a growth standpoint. Like I know I'm going to get rejected at least 2 to 5 times a day, at least. And so that means I got to get up to bat for me, everybody's different, but I've got to get up to bat at least 12 to 15 times because I know I'm at least going to potentially get on to the next step. So I don't know if you know that. I know that's kind of a deep question and most people don't follow it because they're not neurotic about stats like I am, but I don't know if that's a thing for you.
I just remember going through Yelp, going through Zillow, and looking at the top agents that had a lot of reviews, and I would just aggressively go after those folks. And I would have an easy script like, "Hey, Sarah, I've heard amazing things about you. My name is Chris at Supreme Lending. You don't know me, but I know about you. I've seen your signs. When can I come by your office this week to bring you a cup of coffee and show you our pre-approval letter? So when you see our letter, you'll be excited about accepting our offer. Tuesday or Thursday, which day works better for you?"
Yeah, so let's go back to that scripting. I'm sure you probably don't need to use scripting much today because it's so natural for you. But was that an important piece of how you built your business when you look back?
For sure, for sure. I
Okay.
took a lot of scripting from the coaching program. I also
Yeah.
follow a lot of the top producers in the country on the mortgage coaching community, and I would take their
Yeah.
scripts and verbatim, I was, just spitting those same scripts out, and it was working for me.
Yeah. How much time a day? And I know I'm jumping from thing to thing, but I want to point out these nuggets that you keep spitting out, Chris, which I'm just like, oh, that's so good. How much time a day do you spend learning and listening to others that are out in the industry?
I would say at least it varies for me. Sometimes I might jump on at night and knock out a pre-approval at 10 o'clock and just play YouTube and hear Dave Savage or Jeremy Forsey or some of these other top guys that do a ton of volume. Maybe a couple hours a week.
Yeah, that's so
Less than
good.
less
That's
less than 10. A lot early on, it would be a lot more. I'd be just eating it up a lot more, but now it's just like
yeah.
we're keeping me sharp.
Yeah, success leaves clues, and I'll tell you, the top producers are continually learning and make a point for yourself if you haven't been doing that, that you set aside 15 to 30 minutes, whatever you can a day. And it's all over the place. I mean, there's so many people. Dave Savage, his interviews, Dave's dear buddy. Again, you can find this stuff. Barry Habib, it's everywhere with great interviews. Also, Chris, I want to go back to your database. When you started, obviously you didn't have much of a database. Did you have a goal that you were going for when you were, Scott was mentoring you and he had this massive database and you're like, okay, I've got how many?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I wanted to get to 500 as quick as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was just getting out there and taking something of value. So let's talk about that because you talked about the pre-approval letter.
Mhm.
I always think we have so many things coming out. I hope you guys are paying attention to all the new product offerings that are happening with Supreme that other IMBs, I'm telling you, they do not have. They might have a component of it, like the one-time close. They might have conventional in a few states because that's typically what happens, but they don't have all of the other. They don't have FHA, they don't have VA, they don't have, barn dominiums, they don't have manufactured and factory built, but you have a purpose when you go out. So if you wouldn't mind speaking to the pre-approval letter, because every time you go out to a realtor, I believe you need to have something of value, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be food, it doesn't have to be a gift, just something of value that's going to help them. So go ahead, Chris, on your pre-approval.
Yeah. Again, we got this letter, of course, I believe from Pat Flood's group a couple of years ago, and it's been awesome. It's actually a popular pre-approval here in the Bay Area because a lot of our East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area that knows Supreme, they see these letters and it's, to them a solid financing deal that's coming through. So, but to how I was marketing it initially was, hey, I would want to meet with you and go over this pre-approval letter so we can talk about our stats so you can see how Supreme Lending measures our on-time closing or customer satisfaction and of course how we close smoothly. So that was the key piece at the top of that Supreme, I'm looking at it right now, Supreme Service Standard, and I would just use that to go ahead and be a door opener to talk to a new agent.
Yeah, so that helped you. Did you focus in the beginning? Again, I think if you're listening to anything I'm putting out there on social media and you're seeing all the different things that we're creating for Supreme, I am absolutely obsessed with product. and how important it is to have a focus as loan officers with product that you're taking out to the street to your realtors to help them. What did you focus on when you first started?
I focused on first-time buyer programs, and I still do to this day because that's what the majority of the market is. But then I only had first-time buyers. That's all I focused on. So I focused on the bond programs. I focused on, FHA. That was something that Scott told me. He was like, "You're going to want to get really familiar with FHA. You want to get really familiar with 3% down conventional." And so I learned those guidelines, and I would get into the office early. He had suggested get in early and just study the guidelines a little bit every day, so you can be a master of your craft and to be able to verbatim know those guidelines and not have deals fall out because you didn't know about FHA's rule that for a gifting, if they're not family, you can't get a
Right.
gift. So,
How'd you go after that market? Like, what'd you do?
well, when I was talking to these agents, I was letting them know, hey, look, I'm newer in the business, so people can sense that for me that I was green. But I say, look, all I know, all I focus on are the first time buyers. So please give me a shot with your first time buyers. And I would tell them, I had got this from the coaching program, is that I just need we have to do two deals together, Sarah, because if I just do one deal with you and we knock it out of the park, you won't know how we operate with a deal that has some hair on it. So we have to do two deals before we decide if we're going to work together or not. How does that sound? So that
I
worked for me.
love that. I love that. We have to do two deals together because the first one might be a reject from another
Mhm.
lender and you're
Mhm.
not going to really know. I'll get it done. I mean, or I'll, tell you immediately if I can do it. If I can do it, those are harder and there's more to it, right? So you have to do two. Did that work? Obviously it did because you're
It
you're
did.
doing great. But I love that.
A lot of the agents that I've brought on or solicited for their business early on in 2019, 2020, I still work with a handful of those people to this day. I've deepened those relationships. That's been something I've learned from Scott Eden as well. He was really big on me about not having a revolving door with just always having to bring in new people, new referral
Oh,
sources. But if you can deepen those relationships and these are your buddies, you deepen those friendships, it goes a lot further for sure. And I found out to be true. It's a lot more easier to just keep those same agents and grow your relationship. And a lot of them I would go after early on too. The maybe the Wells would not give me a shot, but the newer agents also, I would say, hey, look, me and you, Sarah, we're new in the business. We got to grow our retirement team. We're going to grow our retirement together, grow our database together. We're going to impact and help a lot of people together. So I'm looking forward
yeah,
to
so
doing
you called on a lot of, I love that because it's kind of peer to peer. They
that.
were
Mhm.
young, you were young. I've seen that work really well. Like if you're, I've heard sometimes loan officers will go, I'm so young, I'm not seasoned yet. I'm like, you know what, go after the young agents because it's peer to peer. They get it. And also if you're spending the time, like you just said, learning every day, reading, making sure that you become that resident expert in your craft. I think that's so important. Tell me, did you do trainings with first time home buyers? Did you do events? What did you do?
Yeah, not until not just early on. I did not. I didn't have the confidence to do the work like first time buyer workshops, but it was probably like around once the rates shot up in 2022, like when we had that churn that January, that first quarter, and rates spiked up. I started doing workshops later that year, and I've consistently done first time buyer workshops since 2022 till this year, every quarter with one agent specifically, and then in some cases I'll do it for a group of agents for like a team a group of agents. And I found that they are very rewarding if you properly prepare for them, if you market them accurately, correctly, and you just give a sincere effort. I have found the rule that if you add enough value to the marketplace, you'll be rewarded. And I
Yeah,
found that first time buyer
amen.
workshops or home buyer workshops in general is a way for us as loan officers to add value to the marketplace by sharing your competence, educating people, helping them with credit tips. And if you do that enough with a sincere effort, people will they'll come back to you. And I've had almost
Yeah.
every one of these workshops, somebody eventually ends up closing, whether it's the next month or 6 months later, but it's always ends up popping it back in the pipeline. Oh, that Sarah, she came from that workshop last quarter.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go back to the first workshop or the second or the third. Talk about how that is when you first start out. You've seen that quote, like the first time you do something, it sucks. It just does. Let's go back to the beginning of the workshops.
Oh, I got a great story for you. So, because one of the clients is in contract right now, we did one workshop like 3 years ago with this one agent of mine. His name is Luis, and one guy showed up. This guy, Jesus. We had
Yeah.
the agent was doing it for the first time. I had already done a few, but he had bought these goodie bags and spent all kind of money, and he had one person show up. That person ends up co-signing for his sister, and they bought a house just last year.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he came back around this year and he says, "Hey, I'm ready to buy my house." And he's in contract right now from that same workshop where it was just that one guy showed up. And so that was like my third or fourth. I'd already done a few, but the very first or second one, they sucked. We had maybe two or three people show up with like another agent, and I was nervous to speak in front of people. And so I found that by the second and third go around, I was a little bit
Yeah.
more versed, and I went over my presentation a couple times, and then I was ready to deliver. I felt more confidently.
It's reps. I'm telling you, it's just getting the reps in. And it is so funny. Chris, you and I were laughing. I was a loan officer and did a ton of workshops and trainings and lunch and learns. And I'll never forget my first one. I shared it with you. It was a first time home buyer for Chaffa here in Colorado, and two old guys show up for the chips and salsa, and I was just like, you're not first time home buyers. And they're like, oh, honey, we thought we'd just come and give you some moral support. And, kind of funny, you still do it. And then, yeah, you asked them, how'd I do? Right. And then they're like, we're going to bring some friends back next time. And they did. They did. And you have to just kind of keep going and commit to it. And then become that first time home buyer aficionado, because now you're known for that. And then I was known for, same thing. And then people are like, call Chris. He knows if you just got a turn down in another lender, Chris knows first time home buyers. So he's going to be able to help you. He'll figure it out probably in 5 minutes as soon as he looks at the file, right? And so you become that, and then you gain that traction with new agents. Are you only focused on first time home buyers right now? Because you mentioned that, or tell me if there's other specialties that you're focusing on.
No, not just first time home buyers and second time. I mean, folks that are just in the market, we help a lot of them because of referrals. And I'm really proud to say that we have a lot of past clients that refer us to their friends and family, or even while in contract. That's one of our biggest compliments when we have somebody refer us while in contract. That's part of our Tuesday theme day, is if we're doing that a good job on the transaction piece, they're probably talking about it with their friends or family, or their colleague they sit next to in the cubicle next to them. But I don't just focus on the first time buyers. What I have found also compliments again to Supreme and to our amazing condo department. Early on in like 2019, we had Jim's team approve this one unit, this one condo when no other lender in our area would approve it, because there was some pending litigation. And that led to like 9 or 10, I forget how many, but multiple escrows, and even somebody in our team started getting multiple people on the Simply Supreme team have closed in this complex, which is about 6 minutes away from our branch here in Walnut Creek. It's called the Keys. But when I saw that, I saw what Jim's team, and Jim Mahalik, as you guys know, is the best in the country.
Ah,
I started to focus on condos, and so me and Scott Eden in our branch have located maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6+ different HOAs in the Bay Area that have litigation, and we tend to be the only lender that will take on those units, and it leads to a ripple effect of other agents spreading the word for us. Oh, Chris and Scott are getting it done in this complex. They're the only lender that's doing it. Nobody else. Please call them. And so a lot of the listing agents will call us before they even list, to just validate that we can still do that project, and if they can put our contact information in the MLS. So the condos are huge here.
huge. And I'm telling you, it was a big reason. I don't want to blow up Jim's head on this whole thing, but he was a big reason that I came to Supreme, because again, there are obviously our product offering, and I keep saying it because I think sometimes people have been at Supreme for so long, they don't see all of the gifts that we have here, because you stop seeing them. You just think, oh, every lender has this. No, they don't. They don't have a gym. And I can tell you exactly what you said, Chris. If I were a loan officer and I wasn't getting the business that I wanted to get today, I would, and I'm in a condo area, I would definitely get with Jim, pick his brain on everything, learn every single thing I can about our condo offerings. And I would just hammer that thing, because I'll tell you this, if you do it well, again, I've watched this condo situation where people go into it and literally within 90 days, they're getting one or two referrals immediately. And then then it starts to snowball. And then if you're licensed in other states, you can take it out into other states with a condo price. Again, I could be on a soapbox about condos and Jim Mahalik. And, I'd be throwing an event, bring Jim in, have him present for a group of realtors. There's so much power in that, but it's not just Jim. It's not just Jim. Again, you've got Joe Jensen. Joe Jensen, if you don't know this, hopefully you all showed up for that. I'm going to harp for a minute, but Joe is renowned in the one-time closing space. So again, I would hop on that if that's a thing in your geography, and I would learn every single thing I could from Joe, and I'd have him help you with builders that you're trying to attain, because again, he's a gift that we have here that's just absolutely incredible. We're getting a couple questions, so I want to, do you use your own version? Yes, you talked about the pre-approval, and we definitely will share that, because that's something, and that came from Pat Flood and the Flood Zone, and they're amazing, the different tools that they've created. And again, all this stuff, I think everything that we come across, we will be sharing stuff and making sure that you have these tools in your tool belt so you can go out there too and get after it with business. And then Christian, you asked, can we get that original script, the frame? Yeah, if you wouldn't mind saying it again, and Chris, afterwards we can capture it and then send it out to everybody. Do you mind saying that script one more time for when you originally solicit the agent?
Yeah, I mean, I still remember them to this day. I haven't looked at the PDF of it somewhere in my system, but I had two or three that I know will still work to this day. And the first one was, if I looked you up, Sarah, hey, Sarah, this is Chris Ruiz with Supreme Lending. Did I catch you at a good time? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Hey, the reason why I was reaching out to you is because I've heard wonderful things about you. And I'm not lying, right? If you're a top agent, you've probably been spoken about. Your signs are around the area. So I would say, hey, I've heard great things about you. I would love to have the opportunity to come by your office and bring you some coffee and talk to you for 10, 15 minutes about our top two programs on how we can help you close some more deals this year. What day works better for you, Tuesday or Thursday, morning or afternoon? And I would
That's so
just
good.
pause and let them answer.
Yeah.
Another one would be, if they were not, so if they already had their go-to lender, fine. Hey, I went, Sarah, same script. It was nice. Hey, Sarah, Chris Ruiz with Supreme Lending. Did I catch you at a good time? Wonderful. Hey, the reason why I was reaching out is because I've heard wonderful things about you, and I know you've heard of Supreme Lending. I want to come by your office and just go over our pre-approval letter, because I know you're going to be seeing our offers throughout this spring season.
Ooh, that's
So
really
you
good.
can,
See,
so you
okay.
can, so you understand how our letter is laid out and what this means. So that way, you know, this is a solid offer. What day works best for you? I'll bring you your favorite Pete's coffee.
That's awesome. That's great. So we will send out, we're right at our 30-minute mark, and I wanted to keep these short, to the point, and hopefully you got some really good nuggets from Chris, and I see why you are doing what you're doing. Absolutely incredible. And you have such a kindness about you too. So I'm sure that just is so appealing. But we will be doing this, like I said, every month for half an hour. Next month, we have Lynn Whitehall on. We're so excited to have her. Chris, God bless you and thank you. Thank you for sharing. And like I said, success leaves clues. Get a mentor, right? You can do it absolutely with each other. Make sure you're hardcore setting your theme days for your calls, right? Pick a product, pick a specialty, right? And go out there and get yourself rejected at least a few times a day, right, Chris? And you are just doing fantastic. So any closing comments from you before we sign off?
Yeah, I would say to this day, you nailed it about having some accountability. I think we all need it, right? Everybody has some accountability. Every company has to be accountable to the board, right? Because they have,
Yeah.
and to the investors. Well, same thing. You know, who are you accountable to? Even at this level on a monthly basis, I'm still accountable to my same mentor, Scott, and we go over my monthly production and the goals for that next month. So there is no mystery if I'm 5 or 10% off or where I'm at for my annual goal. And so we do that regularly to this month, to this day. And so I would encourage anybody, just find someone to be accountable to, who's keeping you accountable, and what's that burning desire in your gut that's going to get you up there to make the calls. You know, I'm looking at my burning desire here, my 3 kids. So hopefully everyone has some burning desire.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. You were fantastic. And thanks for sharing so much and helping everybody today.
My
Amazing.
pleasure.
All right. Take care. Thank you.